This video is brought to you by Dr. Kristen R. Bromley's Guitar Method Book Series and Online Music Academy.
I'm Dr. Kristen Bromley. Welcome to my online academy. It is so great to have you joining me here in these online lessons. This is lesson 41 in this series that is all about jazz guitar. As you know, I love jazz guitar and I am so delighted to bring this course to you. In this lesson, we're going to build directly on what we did in lesson 40, so in the last lesson. In the last lesson, we worked on comping in the Bossa Nova style. We learned a very distinct rhythm for that, and there's an alternate rhythm. And we learned how we can create variations from that. In this lesson, we're going to look at doing an alternating bass with that, because when we're playing solo or in duets and so on, it's such a fun thing just to alternate that bass happening with that Bossa Nova rhythm. So we're going to go ahead and just dive right in here. Now up here on the board, I've got the rhythm that we're going to use. We looked at how we could have this dotted quarter note last time, and that's primarily the one we used in place of the quarter note and the eighth note. This time we're using the quarter note and the eighth note. So either one works, but we're using this variation this time. In the last lesson, we really used a lot with that variation. So we can plug that in. Dotted quarter, or we can have that quarter note followed by the eighth note. So here in this lesson, I'm going to work it with this rhythm. If doing this rhythm is a bit much, you can still just use that dotted quarter there. Now what we're going to be doing is inserting a bass note pluck on beat 1 of each of these measures. So on beat 1 and beat 1, and then we're going to insert an alternate bass note pluck on beat 3 and beat 3. So if you're not familiar with this rhythm or you haven't gone through the last lesson, I highly recommend you go through that lesson first, get this rhythm down, get comfortable comping with that Bossa Nova, that partido alto rhythm that we use before you try plugging in the alternating bass. Let's talk about the alternating bass. So there's a lot of different chords that you can of course do this with. In the last few lessons before we did the last lesson, so in those late 30s, we were working on lots of different voicings that are so awesome for jazz guitar. I've got just a few up here on the board, and so I've just written it in with that 1. I'll stick that at the B flat like I did last time, so this at the 6th fret, making that a B flat major 7, and then up to C minor 7 for the 2, F9 for that 5, and then we can come back to that 1, or alternatively we could have the F major 9 there, and then we've got the 2-9, 2 minor 9 to that 5-13 and back to that E flat major 9. So we can do it just like that. Now when we're using an alternating bass, what's happening is there's an alteration between the root and the 5th, and so luckily on those low strings, the 5th string and the 6th string, we can do that pretty easily. The instrument that it sort of copies it from usually does this high to low sound, so as much as we can do high to low, that's the more authentic sound. So we're going to look at those chords first. So if I'm doing that E flat major 9, this one right here, then with my E flat major 9, my alternating bass, anytime we have the root, it's where the root is. We've got the circle around it. The 5th is always on that same fret, but just the string below it. So we can go from high to low, just like that, root to 5. And you just want to find that. So both of the 6th fret. Then what I want to do is plug in the bass note pluck. We'll just do this first measure here. Bass note pluck on beat 1 and the alternating bass, or that 5th, on beat 3. So I'd have bass pluck. So how this works is, if there's a plucked figure normally, we're just going to replace it with the bass note. But if there's a rest, then we just go ahead and pluck the bass note even though there would be a rest. So that's how we insert it. So in this one, we've got that bass note pluck in place of the actual plucked chord, and then or as the rest for beat 3, we'll just do it in place of the rest. Then here in the second measure, we've got the bass note pluck in place of the rest, and then the alternate bass note pluck instead of that actual chord there. So I'm just finger pinching through on this. So it'd be bass down, just that first measure there. Just get used to that. So just like that. Then on the second measure you have second measure. I'm going to get used to that. Just like that, and then put it together. So we'd have practice that as much as you need to with that E flat major 9. Let's look at another option where we have the root on the 5th string. So we can do the 5-9 that's over here, slightly different chord, and we get that dominant figure, and you can practice that. Got the 2 minor 9 here. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the other ones now, meaning the ones that have the root on the 6th string. In some ways, these ones are a little bit trickier because the 5th is 2 frets higher on the next string. So when we have the root on the 6th string, and I'm playing at B flat there at the 6th fret, my root on the 5th string is going to be 2 frets higher on the 5th string. And when I'm doing that, I've got to go from low to high. In all of these voicings that we tend to use, we actually aren't fingering that 5th there. So we either have to rearrange our hands and just shift back and forth, which is a little bit tricky, or you can just finger it the whole time. So in this case, adding that extra note there, and that's the easier way to do it. Now when I'm doing a song, I choose to use the 5th string options as much as I possibly can, because that high to low sound is more authentic and it sounds great and it fingers great. And then when I need to, and we're going to have moments when we need to, I use these ones off the 6th string. So there's the major 7th one. If you take a look at the dominant 13 then, you can alternate your fingerings. Or you can just finger the entire chord, add that 5th in there. Just like so. And then the minor 7th that we've got right here. This one doesn't show where the 2 frets higher it is, but it's still 2 frets higher, so... You can just finger it down the whole time. If you're not sure how to finger some of these ones where we're adding the 5th in the whole time, they're really just the bar chord shapes. So like if we were playing E at major 7 in 1st position, becomes the bar chord there at the 6th fret. If you were playing E minor 7, it becomes the bar chord there at that 6th fret where we're now in B flat minor. Or if you're playing the E flat E7 shape and then adding on that 13th, we would have... helps to make it actually be the dominant 7th there, as opposed to a minor major 7th. Okay, so it can help just to think through the bar chords if that helps. Now, it's a bit tricky, but let's go ahead and take a look at placing these in a chord progression that would have that 1, 2, 5, 1. So starting with this B flat major 7 one, we would have the B flat major 7, and we're going to have the C minor and F9. And then we're back to B flat. Just like that. We'll try that just a little bit. I'll give you a little bit of the sound of it. It's pretty tricky. Thankfully, a lot of the bossa nova chord progressions don't have continuous 2-5-1s. So you got 1, 2, ready, and... like that. Okay, let's try the other one then. We're starting with that E flat major 9. We gotta go up to the F minor 9, and then the B flat 13. Now with that one, you can either grab that bar chord with that 13th on it, or if you need to for a moment, just B flat 7 without the 13th, or you can do the shift, which I sometimes find myself doing mostly because I've grabbed the chord that I'm used to grabbing, and then for that alternate I know I have to make a change. We'll do the B flat 13 and then back to the E flat major 9. So you have ready and... So super cool. Now, we learned in the last lesson about there being variations. We can do the same sort of variations with this one. I've got them up here on the board. So the top one being what we have there. And of course, the stars are showing where that dotted quarter note would go if you wanted that variation of the pattern instead of the quarter note followed by the 8th note and that syncopated quarter note to the 8th note ideal. So number 1 we were just doing, and I'll just demonstrate these on E flat major 9. So number 1 is exactly how it is. Now, we learned in the last lesson how we could start at any one of the beats 1, 3, 1, or 3 and get a variation, though some sound better. However, with the alternating bass notes, I don't mind, like I explained in the last lesson, minding where we have 4 quarter notes back to back in one measure isn't my favorite. So 4 and 2, but when we're doing these bass note plucks, they work better. So the second one then, of course, we're going to have the bass note, and we'll have the alternate bass note, and then the bass note and the alternate bass note. So we'd have... So that's how number 2 works. And then number 3, you would have... And then number 4, and if you wanted to, you could just do one measure options. That is also there as an option, though the one with 4 quarter notes wouldn't be my favorite, that's for sure. So the first one will work, the second one. The third one. And the fourth one. A little bit more like playing in your... We have a flat picking course if you want to learn how to do that. So there's some variations that you could get happening as well in a various song or an arrangement that you were doing. Okay, super fun. I love playing in the bossa nova style, and it sounds so great on guitar. Now, In the next few lessons, we're going to start looking at rootless voicings on the guitar. So everything that we've played so far has the root. Rootless voicings is a little bit of a misnomer, as in you can't have a rootless chord, but because we're often playing in an ensemble and someone else is playing that root, then we can play rootless voicings over the top that sound really nice. And with the formula that we've been working on in the last several lessons, so since lesson 33, where I introduced the formula on how we're voicing things, since then, we can't always finger everything we might want to as far as colors go with the guide tones when we're adding the root in. But once we've taken the root away, we can get two colors against two guide tones in a really great way. So we're going to look at those rootless voicings in the next few lessons, and then we'll work on some more involved swing comping that really gets us into kind of the type of comping that happens on guitar starting in the bebop era and beyond, where we're really comping the way the pianists comp. So lots of great lessons to come on chords, and then of course once we get that going, I've got some etudes that I'll have for you on the different tunes that we've worked on. We'll work on some licks and some scales, and we'll really start getting into bebop after that. So lots of great things to come. These lessons are coming out on Mondays and Fridays. We got the Technique Tuesdays, the Theory Thursdays, and on Saturdays, improvisation and the pop, rock, and blues styles. Those are the lessons coming out fresh every week. There are hundreds of lessons covering various topics already on the channel, so lots of great help for you. Keep having fun, take care, and we'll see you again. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. For more in-depth lessons and to progress through a free guitar course, check out my Guitar 101 series on YouTube and my guitar method books, which all come with access to hours of in-depth video lessons. You can find more information about me and my products at kristenbromley.com. Take care.